this episode of the So You Want to Work in Healthcare podcast. Today we have Savannah Perry. She's a dermatology PA and the founder of the PA platform. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. Thanks for joining. This is actually only my second episode, and I'm really excited to have you because I know that we've never met in person, but we've talked on the phone.
Yes.
Right? And we met, did we meet on TikTok or Instagram? One of those.
I think TikTok, yeah. I think you popped up on my For You page, and I just love seeing other PAs in all of these spaces. So I get really excited.
Yeah. And I think we share similar views on certain things. So, yeah. So welcome. I really just want to get to the bottom of why people choose to go into healthcare. And the whole point of this podcast is to help guide people in their journey into either healthcare, medicine, whatever it may be. So I really want to start by asking you your story and how and why you decided to go into medicine.
Yeah. And I love that because I think, I have a similar mission of just helping people figure that out.
Yeah.
Because I've always been kind of future driven and looking towards, what am I going to do next? What do I want to do? So as far as healthcare, I live in Georgia. My parents are both teachers, so nobody really in healthcare in my family, but seeing both of them work and do things that they were very passionate about was kind of my environment growing up. And I have one sister, she's 3 years younger than me. And when she was little, she started having these crazy fevers. So from a few months old, she would, which I don't remember, but she would have these monthly fevers of super high, like 102, 103, 104. And my parents, not being medical, didn't know what was going on. So that led to a lot of doctor's visits, a lot of testing and trying to figure it out. So now we know in adulthood that it's an autoimmune thing called FAPA, which is periodic fevers that happen each month. And she's luckily grown out of it. But because of that, I'm the big sister. I'm getting dragged along to these appointments and seeing her go through this. And by the time I was in, upper elementary school, middle school, I was old enough to understand kind of what was going on and how it was affecting her and my parents. And I think through that process, I saw a lot of healthcare that maybe sometimes you don't see as a kid if you're just going to like your well checks.
Yeah.
And so I saw pediatricians who were super helpful and really wanted to figure out what was going on. Particularly, we had a doctor, his name's Dr. Miller. He was super well known in our area, but he was very interested, and he would call my parents with, hey, there's this new study that sounds like something that, y'all might want to look into. I was talking to this doctor in Tennessee. I think you guys should go see him. Just really took those extra steps to try to help us figure out what was happening. On the flip side, we saw negative healthcare experiences. And I think everyone's going to have positive and negative. There were the blood draws where maybe whoever was doing it wasn't super compassionate to the fact that like a 6-year-old was having her blood drawn for the 6th time and was really freaked out about that. And so I was taking all that in and seeing that. And then just naturally, I don't have a dramatic moment that made me go to healthcare, but I think naturally I'm drawn to the sciences, and like that was where I was more interested in school. So I think in some cases that kind of propels you towards medicine. Once I got into high school and started taking anatomy and was really interested in that. So that's kind of where I ended up by like senior year thinking, okay, like I want to do something in medicine. I want to do something in healthcare. The cliche, I want to help people. But more than that, like I wanted them to help figure out what was going on and make them better. And so that's where I started teasing out, like, this is where I see myself fitting into the medical field.
It's so funny. I've always said I went into healthcare because I I was always into sports and I had some injuries as a kid, but I never even thought, like, your story just made me remember that I spent like weeks in and out of doctor's office and hospital when I think I was 4 or 5, because I had syncope, like I was just passing out, and they couldn't understand why. So I had to go through all this testing, and I'm just now realizing, like, I wonder if I had a good experience or that like started my interest for healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, you think about those little seeds, and I think because I work with pre-PA students so much and trying to figure those things out and figure out, how did you get here beyond just I want to help people? It makes you do a little like deep dive back into, okay, how did I actually get here? Like what got me to this point? And so spending a lot of time reflecting on that brings up some of those experiences that you may have forgotten about.
Right. And it's interesting because some people go into it, I think, because of a very good experience, and some the opposite. Like they had a bad experience. They're like, I want to fix this.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's important that people have a why, like their why, and yours it makes perfect sense. You were in and out of doctor's offices and with your sister, and I'm an older sister too, so I can relate with that. But I guess in my experience, I was the one who was like sick.
Sick one,
But but yeah, that makes total sense. And so, did you always work in dermatology, or did you start in a different field?
I've only done derm, so
okay, cool.
I'm on year 9 of only derm.
Nice
so far.
So you're
maybe something else
basically
in the
pro.
future.
you're an expert.
I feel pretty confident now in a lot of things. There are definitely still the moments where I walk in and I go, "What the heck? Okay, this is different." So yeah, but I definitely, thinking back to when I first started, it's a lot better.
Yeah. What made you want to go into dermatology?
I was super open going into PA school, but I did have some great shadowing experience in dermatology. So there was a PA in Athens, Georgia, where I went to college at UGA, and I just found her by cold calling offices, and she called me back and she let me come shadow one afternoon a week for an entire year. So I got to know her really well and like really see that role and see a lot of cool cases. And her name's Hope. She has, I think, an Instagram now, Hope the PA. And she's awesome. But seeing that, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, this PA is doing procedures and she sees teenagers and kids and adults. So I liked that, and I knew that going into PA school, but wanted to keep my options open. And I really loved all of my rotations for the most part. Like, I enjoyed them. Even ones I thought I was going to hate, like endocrinology, I loved it. And so I wasn't set on like, oh, I need to go into one thing and get this. And so I really loved surgery, which you can probably relate. If you get that bug of, procedures and surgery and being in the OR, I loved it. And what I didn't love was like the general surgery schedule and all of that. So derm is a happy medium for that. And I had accepted a job in neurosurgery verbally when this derm job opened. And I was actually on my general surgery rotation at the time, and the preceptor I was with knew the dermatologist, and he said, I think this would be a great fit for you. I'm going to call her and I want you to go interview. Because I had told him, like, I kind of want to do derm, but then my friend's interviewing, and I, talked to this neurosurgeon, and he was like, no, you got to go work at this place. So it worked out, and once I met the doctor and spent some time there, I agreed that it was probably a good fit. And just thinking about the lifestyle that I wanted and the schedule, and then also getting to still do procedures and see that variety of patients, I was like, listen, derm jobs don't come up that often. I gotta just take it. I gotta jump in because I don't know if I'll get this chance in the future when it would come up again.
Right. Yeah, I've heard it's really difficult to kind of break into dermatology.
It can be. The jobs are out there for PAs. I think part of that is once a PA is in a good derm practice, they typically don't leave.
Right.
And then there are some practices that aren't going to want to hire or train a new grad and will only hire PAs with experience.
Yeah.
And so if you get into like a bigger city, there's going to be more competition in getting those positions. And so sometimes it is a waiting game and just kind of keeping after it. But the jobs are out there. It just may not be your first job if that's what you're aiming for.
Right. And I think it sounds like maybe just making connections and keeping them and following up with them, which I tell people all the time. Connections are good.
It's yes. I mean, it's such a difference in getting the jobs, but the jobs that you want, like you can apply to jobs all over the place. But when you actually know, other providers, know the drug reps, they can tell you, yes, this is a job you want, or hey, steer clear of that. It's not going to be where you want to end up. And that starts before you even get into your field. That's
for sure.
While you're doing, your patient care hours and things, those connections can definitely come back later on.
Yeah. And back to what you said about cold calling offices. I love that. I did basically the same thing. I was applying back in, I always forget when this was, I guess 2009. So
I was 2011 when I applied. Yeah.
So I was doing my patient care hours or volunteering or whatever it was, shadowing the year or two before that. And I just went into offices and I would have like some sort of connection, like, oh, I've seen this doctor before. My grandma saw this doctor, whatever. And I just went in, and finally, a cardiologist and a podiatrist both were like, sure, you can shadow me. They were like kind of confused, but I don't know. It's just how I did it. And it's funny because you probably get this all the time. I get so many DMs asking how to get patient care hours or asking if they can shadow me. And I always feel so bad because the hospital I work with is very strict with that. So I can't really take shadowers, but I always tell them you need to show up, like just show up, call, go in person. I'm sure you've been to a doctor before, or you know someone who knows a doctor. And honestly, it's the only way I know. I think that you might get lucky if you do DM the right person and they're open to it and they're allowed to have a person shadow. But I think just calling or going in person is such a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing that I keep telling people right now is, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? They say no, or they don't respond. Like, I think there's some fear of rejection. Sounds a little dramatic, but just like fear of, the unknown and putting yourself out there. And like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen is they just say no. And I even had to tell I forgot what I was doing, but the other day I had to tell myself that. I was like, wait, why am I freaking out? What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to they say no, just ask. And so, it was a flight that I wanted to change seats. And so, you just like little things. And so I get it. Like it's, we don't want to be a bother. We don't want to ask for things, but you just never know. And like, if you have a goal or you want to find something out, you have to be proactive to do that.
You really have to. All right. So I need to know what you love about dermatology and your job first, and then I'm going to ask you what maybe you don't love, if anything. But tell me what you love about your job.
Okay. So I love a lot of things. I love that I get to see patients for a long time. I have patients now that I've been doing it for 9 years that I started seeing them when they were 9 and 10 years old, and now they are seniors in high school or going to college. And that is just crazy to me. It's just wild. And it makes you realize how quickly time passes. But I really enjoy that. I get to see entire families where I'm seeing the kids, the parents, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles. So I like that continuity of just establishing those relationships and having those patients on my schedule that I get really excited about them. Like, oh, so-and-so's coming today. Like, I get to see them. I wonder how they're doing. They took a trip to Alaska last month. I want to see how it went, And so I enjoy that part of it. Other things I enjoy as far as the actual job, like in my practice I'm in now, do mostly medical derm and then more surgeries and then cosmetics is probably the least of it, which is fine with me. I prefer that kind of spread, and I get to make that myself. So I work with a doctor who is very much family focused, and she's like, listen, like, I don't want you to miss the play at school. I don't want you to miss anything. So for example, when I came back from maternity leave, I have a 4-month-old, and I was able to move my schedule around. So my procedures are at the end of the day. So if I don't have procedures, I can leave a little bit earlier and, do school pickup because I have a kindergartner too. And she very much is fine with me arranging things how I need to. But that means I can, if I want to do more surgeries, I can do more surgeries and all of that. So I enjoy that part of it. The schedule's nice, and I only work part-time now.
Okay.
I started at 4 days a week, went up to 4.5 days a week, and now I'm at 2 days a week.
Nice.
So I work on Mondays and Tuesdays, and usually I'm home by 4:30 or so if I have a full day with procedures. If I don't have procedures, I can be at the school by 3:30 to pick up my daughter. And it's just very flexible, which is nice. No call, no weekends, no holidays, that kind of thing.
That's wonderful.
So the schedule's good.
Real quick, just run us through a typical day at work for you.
Okay, so a typical day, I get there by 8, and my first patient's at 8. Our appointments are 10-minute spots. Okay. And so I'll see patients from 8 till 11:40. Sometimes if I need to put a procedure in the morning, I'll put it in that like 11 o'clock spot. But seeing patients, and then lunch break, come back at 1, and I work from 1 till my last patient's at 3:10, unless I have procedures. So sometimes I'll have 1 or 2 surgeries after that. And I'm seeing a good variety. I'm seeing a lot of new patients, a lot of established patients. A triage would usually be like a rash, lots of poison ivy kind of stuff, or new things popping up. Lesions, something new, changed, bleeding, growing that we need to take a look at. A lot of acne, a lot of eczema, rosacea, psoriasis, skin cancer follow-ups, checking, things we've done before, checking to see if the cream worked or whatever. Skin cancer checks, just kind of head to toe, looking, surveillance for anything. What else do we see? Warts, molluscum.
And a typical procedure that you're doing? What would that be? So
procedure-wise, it's a lot of like freezing warts, doing shave or punch biopsies, excisions on either skin cancers or cysts, usually sometimes some other lesions. But that's, I don't do a lot on the face. Those we usually refer out to Mohs, sometimes plastics. I'll kind of do like periauricular area or neck things. I don't really like to, this is where I get to choose. I don't really like to do backs just because they're harder to close. So a lot of times I won't. Either the physician will do those or we refer out. Yeah, lots of excisions. And then cosmetics, there may be some Botox in there, chemical peels. We do have some like radio frequency machines and an IPL, filler, that kind of thing, just kind of scattered in there too. So it's a good variety. But yeah, we're moving fast, seeing a lot of people. I have one medical assistant who's kind of with me all day, who takes my patients back and gets a history and then scribes while I'm in the room.
Nice. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, my notes are done by the time I leave. I don't ever leave. Rarely will I leave with notes unfinished. And then I just, finish them the next day if I need to. So, it's fast, but yeah, it's fun.
And so it sounds like you have a lot of autonomy. You're doing these procedures on your own.
Yes, because patients are coming in, they are on my schedule, they're seeing me, they know they're seeing me, they may or may not have ever seen the doctor. Usually she's available if I needed her to look at anybody, or I could always call her too if she's not in the office. I have my own patients that, I'm seeing and making the decisions on. And that's where, and I've had conversations with the physician I work with as far as, she trusts me to know what I don't know and to ask when I need help. And also to, when I'm doing surgeries or making those decisions, do what I feel comfortable with. And she's also okay with me like pushing myself a little bit and happy to help in those situations too. So if I came to her and I was like, hey, I do want to learn how to do XYZ or do these types of excisions, whatever, she would be more than happy to help me figure that out and train me in that. But it's just conversation and kind of that understanding of she knows based on my experience and working with me that I'm not going to do anything risky or harmful to the patients.
Yeah. She sounds great, by the way.
She's great. She is like the kindest human. She has 4 kids and they're all grown now, but like, she's fantastic. Like, yeah, I always say I'm like, I just can never leave this job because it's so great. And I would be sad if I couldn't come back. Like I will never give it up. I will be there as long as they will have me.
And it sounds like she really values you.
Yeah. And the whole staff, like,
that's great.
She is probably one of the best people I've ever met at, making people feel valued and listened to. And she's great with her patients. If you are going to probably wait an hour to see her because she likes to talk, but that's okay. So yeah, she's fantastic.
Awesome.
Perks, we get, I haven't bought sunscreen in 9 years. Lots of free sunscreen and face wash. That's a perk.
That's a big
free Botox. I'll take it. Those things are fun. As far as not liking about derm, I don't know. I love, it's hard. I love derm. I love my job. I love being a PA. I love my practice. Like, I feel like I'm in this, dream job, and so it's hard for me to find anything bad about it. There are difficult things.
If there's nothing.
I mean, there are. Realistically, like, insurance is tough, and anyone who's worked in healthcare knows that. I get so frustrated with, I think I've come up with this amazing plan for a patient. We've talked about it. I've picked out the medicines I think are perfect for them, that are going to help them, and then I get that message or paper or whatever that says insurance said no. And that's just so frustrating. The other part about derm that I don't think people realize is how fast paced it is, which for me is good. I like it. I feel like it makes the day move quickly. But if you get derailed and something crazy happens, somebody's passing out, a weird something comes in, it can throw you off. So we're seeing around 35 to 40 patients a day. It's a lot. Yeah. Like, you have to be able to make decisions really quickly. You have to communicate well, and still figure out ways to make patients feel valued when you have these shorter appointment times, which a lot of stuff's very straightforward. A lot of my patients just want to know, like, hey, is this cancer? And when I'm able to say, like, nope, it's fine, they're good to go. So there's a lot of that, but there is some weird stuff. And the other frustrating thing about dermatology is we don't have answers for a lot of things. So when people say, like, why do I have eczema now? Why do I have dandruff? Why did I just get this? I don't know, and nobody knows. And so it's a lot of those conversations of, like, I don't know why this just started. I don't know why you got it and so didn't get it. I don't know why you got it now, and I can't cure it. I can make it better, but it's going to mean you're using this medicine, or you're doing this, or you're changing soap. You're doing all these things now, and I can't tell you it's not going to happen again. So that's, part of it. That I wish I had some better, my magic wand that I could use. But I would say those are the difficult parts about it.
Yeah, it's always frustrating when you don't know and you want to know, right? Like, because that's what we feel like we're here for. And personally, I feel like it's okay to say you don't know, but you kind of feel like you're failing the patient a little bit because they really want to know.
Yeah.
But I think that would be probably the most frustrating part of dermatology for me. I actually really liked learning about derm, and I didn't get a chance to ever be in really a dermatology related field with my rotations or anything. But I think, it's hard. I don't think dermatology is easy at all. Like, I think I don't know how you do it sometimes because there's so many rashes and so many reasons for it or no reason for it. And yeah, I think I would have a hard time not being able to figure things out every single time.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. We can biopsy, and it's funny because patients will ask sometimes, like, "Well, how do you know? How do you know it's not cancer? How do you know it's this?"
Yeah.
And my answer is kind of like, "Well, when you look at it every day for 9 years, you figure it out." And so we have tools that we use to figure things out. And a lot of it is patterns, but every once in a while you'll get that zebra, or we'll say like, "Oh, this didn't read the textbook," and it's something like I had a pathology come back this week of a rash that it just looked weird. We and the other thing with skin is usually it responds pretty predictably to our treatments, but this one in particular, like he had tried steroids, he tried these different things and nothing had worked. And the pathology came back and it was psoriasis, but it's a very atypical presentation and it wasn't responding. So, at that point we needed to biopsy because it wasn't doing what we thought it should do.
Right.
And that gave us that answer. But yeah, it does get a little patients get frustrated with it. And I understand that.
Yeah.
Skin's just weird. It does what it wants. That's usually my go-to.
For sure. And back to the things you love. So I just want to point out that having a boss who values your time is so important because you could be working in the coolest job and the best job, but if your boss doesn't kind of like align with your values, then I think you're not going to be happy. So I think it's a good way to retain PAs and employees in general, but you're so lucky to have somebody who values family and lets you leave early if you need to and pick up your kids. And I think that's like so huge.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm in my second practice. So I was at another practice for the first 5 years of my career.
Okay, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, so I worked for 4 years full time, and then I had my daughter. And I always thought I never imagined I'd be the one who was like, I want to stay home. I always thought I'd be like, have the baby a week later, like, let me go back to work. I'm ready to go back. And I remember the first day I went back, I was like sobbing and I was like begging my husband. I was like, don't make me go. And he's like, I'm not making you go. But like, you're too late. Like, you got to go. And he's a physician. He's a hospitalist.
Oh, nice.
And so, and he was in residency at the time, but I was like, okay, let me like see what I can do. So I went and I worked for a year full time with having my daughter and then also still doing the PA platform. And after I gave it a year and I was like, okay, I'm still just not happy. Like I am drained. I can't do this. I'm feeling burnout, which I don't know about you, but I feel like my whole class around year 5 had this kind of burnout situation where we all like felt kind of, a lot of people made changes and just needed kind of some breaks there. So I was in that moment while trying to figure out kids and stuff. So after that, I was like, I really want to go part-time. And so I went into my practice and I asked them about going part-time. And it was a female-owned practice with physicians who were moms. And I was basically told no, and we're changing, like, if you were to get pregnant again in maternity leave, you're only gonna be able to take 6 weeks, like where I'd taken 12 before. And just, it kind of was discouraging. And I was like, what? Like, half the time I think you're my friend, and then you go into this. So I knew that just some of the practice had grown and we weren't necessarily on the same page anymore. So they weren't able to accommodate me wanting to be part-time, and didn't want to like work with me on that at all. So I started looking and that's where I ended up at the practice I'm at now. And honestly, I put in my resignation on Thursday at noon, and I had this job by Friday at noon.
Oh, wow.
And the doctor was like, hey, like, you make your schedule, you tell us when you want to work.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's just so crazy. Like, she brings her dogs to work, which the patients love. And yeah, they're like our little mascots. And they're so fun. And I mean, there have been times I've had to bring like my kids to work with me for a little while or whatever. And it's just, like you said, it's just crazy to have someone who's so supportive. Like she will stop her clinic if my daughter comes to visit to like come see her and talk to her. And my daughter just loves her. So the jobs are out there. Those types of work environments are out there. And I mean, I would say she loves, all employees. Like we did the little TikTok trend the other day of, would you bail me out of jail? And she was like, yeah, no questions asked, like 100%. And I know she absolutely means it. And so I just, think that's encouraging. And then like the work-life balance, like I just don't really believe in that. I think you choose that no matter what profession you're in.
Right.
Whether you're a PA, a doctor, a nurse, whatever, like you've got to figure out how to make that work for what you want to do. So I mentioned my husband's a hospitalist. He works 7 on, 7 off. He does not pick up shifts because he values our family time. He didn't do a fellowship because he was, at that point we had our daughter, and he was like, I just want to be home. Like I want to be able to be with her and be with you guys. So those are decisions that you make. You can work as much as you want, and you can find someone who will let you work nonstop, and you'll probably make a lot of money, but you have to decide if that's really what you want.
Right. What's more important? I think it took me a really long time, like until recently, to realize this. And,
it's hard.
I don't know if it's just orthopedic surgery or New York City or both, but, I work at a place where we're just like grinding all the time. And I almost feel like there's sometimes a sense of like people are afraid to leave when their work is done because it looks bad. And I want to say I have learned a lot from Gen Z because we have had some like med students and research fellows come through who are now Gen Zers. And they have no problem being like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, work's done, I'll see you guys later. And I'm just like, wait, what? That can be
There's
done?
always more work.
Like, wait, I can leave too, and I've been there for 9 years in my job too. And so it's just funny, but it's true. I think it's what you make of it. Yeah. And if you value your time, and you can create the life you want. And I think it's important. You probably teach this, I would assume, to your mentees, I guess you would say, or your clients. But I think it's so important to teach this to the younger PAs and med students coming up, because we don't have to be at work all day. Like we just don't.
Well, and you're going to work hard while you're there.
Exactly.
And you can make that what you want it. But I just very strongly believe like we don't have time to be somewhere where you're unhappy. I see so many people on social media and things, just miserable in their jobs and miserable in what they're doing or who they're working with. And I don't know, like that's just, I've never been one to like stay where I'm miserable. I mean, like let's say PA school was hard. It wasn't always the most fun, but like I made the most of it and got through that. But like after that, kind of like you with the grinding thing, like that's how I felt at my old job. Like I felt like I was just grinding, and it got to the point where one day I was just kind of like, I feel kind of like I'm a cash cow. Like I think, I don't feel valued, and I just don't think this is the best fit for me, like culturally anymore. And I know the PA who took my job, and she loves it, and she was coming from a place where it was way worse. So it's, again, like it's just personal preference and figuring out what your deal breakers are, what your priorities are.
Right.
And be willing to make a change. Like it is scary. It was scary for me to quit. It was scary to go part-time. Everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, you're in derm, you're in the perfect job, you are in this new practice, you're busy. Why would you want to leave? And I was like, because, right now my family is more important to me. And I didn't feel like I was doing anything great. I was like, at my job, I'm distracted. I'm not 100% there. I'm not 100% when I'm a mom or a wife. I'm not 100% when I'm doing PA platform, but I don't want to give up any of these things.
Right.
So I'm not going to quit PA platform because that's my creative outlet. That's what I'm enjoying. I like my patients and I like being clinical and I put in all this work for it. So I'm not going to give that up. And clearly I can't give up being a mom.
Right.
So what am I going to do? I'm just going to cut back on all of them to make them all fit in better.
Yeah, it is a brave thing to do, because I think a lot of people do get stuck, and it takes a lot to make a change. It's scary.
Yeah, it's easier to complain and rant in your group text than it is to actually put a resignation in and look for a new job.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit. If you want to share, where did you go to PA school?
I went to Augusta University.
Okay. And was it a 2-year program?
27 months. So pretty typical, straight through 2 years in the summer.
Okay. Yep. Same for me. And do you remember how many rotations they gave you?
Yeah, we had 12 rotations. They were each 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. Yep. So lots of shorter rotations. I think mine were 6 weeks and I think I had 8.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
I've heard, I think there's benefits to both. I think mine, I just got enough time to get settled and comfortable. And then they're like, all right, move on. Time to go.
I know.
But I did get to do more and see more specialties and settings.
Okay. And you said, did you do an actual dermatology rotation, or was it more of the shadowing with Hope?
So I, at the time that I was in PA school, my husband was in med school. We got married during PA school. So all my friends, not all of them, but some of them were like, I'm planning these fun trips and I'm going to take a break and whatever. And I was like, I need money. I can't do that. We need money. So I started looking for jobs really early. We graduated in August and I started looking the January before and interviewing kind of February, March. And so I actually already had this job offer by April.
Oh, wow.
And then I set it up so that I did my last 2 rotations, which were electives, at their office. So I was able to train while I was still in school, which was great for them, great for me. And then I was able to kind of hit the ground running a little bit more once I finished.
You're dermatology PA for 9 years. You said something about PA platform being your creative outlet, which I can relate to because I feel like I always need a creative outlet, hence TikTok and this. But
yes, killing it on TikTok.
Oh, thanks. TikTok's, I have a love-hate relationship with TikTok, but we can get there later.
Same.
The PA platform, when did you start it? Why did you start it? I want to know all about this.
Okay, so I started it now 8 years ago. Basically, after I graduated from PA school, so that was August, and then, like I said, my husband was in med school. So he wasn't getting home till, I don't know, 10, 11. I was just kind of hanging out. My job, I was working 4 days a week. And those first few months were a lot of fun. And I figured out, though, that if I was not working or doing something, I was spending money and doing things. I was like, okay, I need a hobby.
I feel like we're very similar.
Is this the PA prototype? Do you feel that?
Can relate.
Except for I hate ortho. I don't know if you know that. Ortho makes me pass out. Broken bones. I just can't deal. But so I was I need an outlet. I need a hobby. I didn't do anything during PA school except for study, and so I kind of had to figure that out. I also had this, I think moment where I realized I've been in school for 23, 24 years, and I'm now at a point where I don't have an assignment. I don't have a test to study for. What am I doing? I don't know what to do with myself. And so I kind of had those realizations. And I've always loved reading blogs and social media things. And this was, 8 years ago, so things were a little bit different. And I was like, maybe I'll start blogging. And fun fact, I decided I was going to do a fashion blog for a couple of days. And I was like,
nice.
I don't buy clothes enough or like want to do this. And so that I remember my husband taking pictures of me in the driveway one time. And I was like, this is not for me. So that died. And then I was like, okay, what do I know about? And I was like, I know about the PA profession. And people had been asking me like, how'd you get into PA school? What'd you do? And so I said, maybe, I'll just start blogging about that. And kind of like you mentioned at the beginning, my goal is not to say that the PA profession is the best job in the world and everyone should be a PA. My goal is to help people who are possibly interested in medicine or healthcare know that it's a job that they might want to explore. And so I mean, some of those TikTok haters like to come for us and say like, oh, like you're saying these terrible things about doctors. I'm like, you've never heard me say anything bad about a doctor. I'm married to a doctor. Like, doctors are great. I'm just saying PAs are also great. And maybe somebody out there wants to be one. I don't know.
Right.
And so I started blogging and doing social media, and it's just grown. And it is my creative outlet. I love just learning about new things, learning how to make a website, learning how to self-publish a book and do these things that I never would have, like if you had asked me 10 years ago if I was going to do these things or if my life would look the way it does now, or I'd get to go speak at conferences and run my own conference, like never would I've ever guessed any of that. But it's cool how it works out when you just kind of take a chance and try something. And now I'm pretty passionate about, like, I think everyone could have a side hustle if they want one, and not even necessarily one that makes money, but just something they enjoy, that they could, share with others if they wanted to.
Yeah. I'm similar to you in that, like, I feel that if I'm not working towards something, I'm not completely happy. And it's funny because I've always had something on the side. Like, I'm sorry to say, I did cringe. I did a multi-level marketing company for like couple years.
Hey,
I know.
At least you figured it out.
I am not ashamed. I learned a lot from it, but weird time in my life. But that was one thing. And then it became like, I don't know if you know about Spartan racing, but I was like a big Spartan racer for a few years, which is like obstacle course racing.
Oh yeah, we have one here actually. Yeah.
And now it's COVID happened, and then TikTok happened, and now I find myself here. But it's so fun because with this particular project, I really just want to help people understand what we do, or what a doctor does, or what somebody in like healthcare administration does. And it's more that I'm just interested in it. And you said it doesn't necessarily need to be a side hustle that makes you money, but if you love it, why not do it? Obviously, be smart about how much money you're spending. But I also think that if you truly love it, then it might naturally become a source of income for you. So yeah, I mean, that's great. I love that you've built this business and this platform. So you have a book?
Yeah, so I've through the PA platform. So it started with blogging, and then getting involved with social media, and just the community of PAs there now is really cool. But started doing like YouTube videos, and then my podcast, I don't remember when it came out, but I just processed our episode today, and we're on episode 266.
Wow.
So it's called the Pre-PA Club.
Cool.
And then what else have we done? So that turned into like online courses. And then I've self-published 3 books. So one's about interviews, one's about personal statements, and one's like a general pre-PA guide.
Wow.
So that's been a fun process. They all took me way longer than I thought they would, but I've enjoyed that because now it's like I have this skill set that I can help other people. So like one of my friends is trying to publish a book now, and we're working on that together. So it's been really fun. And then I think one of the coolest things is my company, so the PA platform, merge this summer with a company called Matt. And again, like just something I never would have imagined, that I'm like joining this team where I'm able to help build an online like education software where it's like an application tracker. And, you know, same goals, like it's free. It's just to help students get to their goals quicker and figure things out. So there's just, I feel like for PAs and just people, but PAs, there's so many opportunities out there that are outside of the box. If that's something that people are interested in, or if like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes students feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to become a PA because I have this other interest. And you can absolutely like still have that interest and still pursue it as a PA.
Right. Totally. 100%. And so if you were to be like giving your elevator pitch on PA platform, and I really want our viewers and listeners to know what they would get from your services.
Yeah, so the PA platform is kind of a comprehensive place to go for all your pre-PA questions. So there's tons of free videos, podcasts, blog posts, social media posts about every step of the process. And so that's what I tell people mostly is if you have a question about becoming a PA, if you Google the PA platform plus whatever it is, personal statement, GPA, GRE, you're going to find probably something you're looking for and the answer to your question.
Cool.
And so that's been my goal, is just help make the process easier. It has only gotten more complicated since we applied. And so that's part of it. And then, you know, we do have that one-on-one help for people who maybe don't have an advisor or mentor. So that's counseling sessions, personal statement review, mock interviews. There's some online courses. We're starting a group coaching cohort that'll start in February to kind of walk through the application process together. And then there are the books available, you know, if you're more of a book person, not ready for that one-on-one, but really just trying to have as many resources available. But I know, I mean, there are resources, there are services, but I get just as many messages from people who are like, hey, I followed you on TikTok, I followed you on Instagram, I followed your advice, and I got accepted. And those are my favorite messages, because I'm just like, it means so much to me that someone would take their time and thought to be like, I need to tell Savannah I got into PA school. And I'm like, I'm so excited I'm on your list of people to tell. Like, you told your family, you told your friends, and you needed to tell me. And that makes me feel so good.
Yeah.
So that's the fun part of it.
Cool. I love that. And when people DM me about like questions that I really don't know the answer to anymore, because I've been so far removed from the process for so long, I'm like, go check out Savannah's page. Like, here's her. I owe like every single time.
Thank you. And I'm like, don't ask me about ortho. Don't go talk to Leigha.
But it's true. You're everything you've built, your social media, your programs that you just talked about. It seems so comprehensive. So I'm just like, she can answer all your questions.
Yeah,
but
it's a
great.
lot. It's a lot to stay up to date with. But I enjoy it. I've always said if I didn't become a PA and medicine didn't work out, I would have been a college advisor.
Oh, cool.
And so this kind of lets me still do that by being able to help students kind of figure out their path, figure out what they need to do to get there.
So what is one piece of advice you could give a PA trying to get into the dermatology field? And then one piece of advice you could give to a pre-PA student on their application, like the most important piece of advice.
Okay. So to somebody trying to get into derm, which I'd say this is one of my most asked questions, drug reps are your best friends. I think reps know the jobs. Like if you're on rotations and a drug rep, a derm rep comes in, talk to them. If a rep comes in who's not in derm, talk to them and ask if they know derm reps. These reps are like the pharmaceutical reps are so well connected, and they've a lot of times been in different areas. So I'm in Georgia and we're kind of on the border of South Carolina. So we get reps from Atlanta and from South Carolina.
Okay.
And so like I had a friend who was looking for a job in Texas in derm, and I was able to connect her with reps there through mine. And then she moved to Charleston, and same thing, like her reps were reaching out for her, and my reps who go to Charleston were able to like put out some feelers and help her get a job and say like, hey, don't go to that practice, but this one's really good.
Right.
So those connections are just invaluable if you can, start asking those questions if that's something you want to get into. I'd say that's the best place to actually find out about jobs, and just send your resume. Like, you just never know. One place that I sent a resume to while I was in PA school, they weren't hiring, weren't advertising. They called me a couple months after I accepted my position that I ended up taking. So I think I was still in school, but maybe it was over the summer, and they called and were like, hey, would you want to come interview? And they, again, were not advertising a PA position. I just sent my resume, sent a cover letter saying I wanted to be in derm, and they ended up reaching out. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and then just keep doing it too. Like, if you get a no, say, okay, well, I'll try again next month. Don't give up.
Yeah, the drug reps and reps in general. In ortho, it's usually device reps.
Yeah, y'all have different
They
ones.
know all. They know all the people. They know all the things. They know the details. They
know
so
the tea
true.
and the drama.
Yep,
and if you're friends with them, they'll tell you.
Yep.
As far as pre-PAs, so I think one of the biggest struggles as a pre-PA is that the requirements for all these schools is so different. And so I think if you can start early and kind of work from your school list, it'll make the process easier. So if you figure out, where you want to apply, what they want, and work towards those goals, but you don't just need to meet the goals, you need to exceed them and keep working until you get that acceptance. So I think that's part of it. It can be easy when, let's say, you have a lower GPA and higher patient care hours to just be like, oh, I'll just keep getting more patient care hours. But you also have to take kind of an objective look at your application and figure out what the weakest parts are and work towards those. The other thing I would say is don't be afraid to reach out to programs. So the same way we're saying, ask and don't be scared for a no, the programs are there to help you. And so they have admissions departments, they have people who can help answer your questions. Right. If you get waitlisted, if you get rejected, ask them why. If they give you a reason, that's extremely valuable information. I can tell you all day what I think is wrong with your application, but if you hear it directly from the school and they're telling you what to fix, that's what you need to know. And I've seen a lot of people do that and then, take action on that and then end up getting accepted once they've corrected those things.
I would never think to do that.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, I just am in this position where I just need to wait for them to call me. And in some cases you are, and some schools won't give you any feedback or they'll give you something generic. But if a school will tell you hey, you need to work on your interview. Hey, you had a letter that was negative, or we really need you to have a variety of patient care hours. Your GRE was too low. Those are things that you can fix and you can work on, and then it can change the results.
And I would assume that at least at some programs, just reaching out kind of puts your name in their minds. And then you apply again, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And reapplying is not bad. There's no issue with reapplying, no issue with taking a gap year. I don't even think there's a traditional PA school applicant anymore, just because there's so many different ways to get there.
Gap year. I wish that's something I did. If I could give a piece of advice, it is take a gap year. Oh my goodness. I want to take a gap year right now, honestly, because I never sabbatical. I'm like you, where we both, it seems like, just went straight through undergrad, straight to PA school. I think I had 4 weeks off between undergrad and PA school. And then I started my job immediately after that. So same thing, back to the burnout, but take a gap year. Just take it. If you're thinking about it.
Gap semester, and that was good. Having that semester was really, really nice in between. And then as a PA, as a professional or whatever you're in, use your PTO. You have it for a reason.
Yes.
Even if it's just, the other day I needed a Monday off to get some stuff done, and I took it. If you need a PTO, you have hours, just use them.
Definitely use them. We need them for sure. I use every single day of my vacation every single year. So
well, my schedule's weird, so I don't take off that much. But I came back from maternity leave and I was like, hey, I'm gonna need 2 weeks off in June because I'm going on vacation. They were like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
where are you going?
Your time.
So
you earned it.
Yep.
Awesome. Oh, let's talk about your podcast real quick.
Oh, yeah.
So when did you're on episode 200 something, you said?
266, yeah.
Wow. And when did you start? Yeah, yeah. When did you start doing that?
I don't remember. I think it was after, maybe I've been doing it like 4 years, 3 or 4 years. Because I've taken a couple little breaks in there. And it was after I got kind of where I felt comfortable with, because you want to do everything at once and that's just not possible. But like, okay, I'm comfortable with the blog. I'm comfortable with the website, with social media. So like, let's add a podcast.
What's next?
Why not? And so I've been doing it for a while and I've had some really fun interviews. Sometimes it's just me talking. Sometimes it's interviews, but a good variety on there of different stuff. So faculty, directors of admissions, applicants, PA students, try to get a little bit of everything on there for the pre-PA audience.
And is it called, tell us the name of the podcast.
It's called the Pre-PA Club.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I've seen that on your social media. I need to listen for sure.
Well, we'll get you on there. Woo-hoo! Share your story. And
that'd be fun.
The flip side, yeah.
And where can our viewers and listeners find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm the PA platform pretty much everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. The podcast is the Pre-PA Club. We have a Facebook group called the Pre-PA Club also. Lots of videos on YouTube. And I have another account that I post more like personal skincare, derm PA stuff on TikTok called, it's just at physician assistant. So
yeah. When you got, I was like, wow, how did she do that?
I was like, I need to take this before somebody else does and makes it something terrible. So
yeah,
I don't know if it'll stay that forever, but I'll make sure nobody gets it.
You're crushing it on TikTok, Instagram. You have a big following on Instagram too. I mean,
Instagram's hard.
Instagram is hard.
They're all hard. Like, what do you want from me? I just want to talk about what I want to talk about.
I know, the algorithm.
Yes.
But awesome. So I think this was great. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I wish you all the best in your business, and I want to see it keep growing. And I'm obviously going to always continue to watch you on social media because you're super entertaining. Hopefully, I'm sure our listeners and viewers got a lot out of this episode, especially if they're thinking about going to PA school. Again, go check out Savannah's social media and website and the PA platform because it is honestly so helpful.
And don't be afraid to reach out. I'm always happy to help. Don't be afraid to ask your question. No dumb questions.
Yeah, no dumb questions. I hope we can do this again.
Yes, we'll have to connect.